Welcome to A Mason's Work, the podcast where we review Masonic symbols and illustrate how they can be used to solve problems in everyday life. With your host, Brian Mattox, a proud member of the Craftsman Online Media Network.
I want to start today's episode by talking about a concept that is central to Jungian psychology. Carl Jung was a guy who was really influential in the history of psychology as an alternative to this kind of sort of Freudian root cause analysis process. Jung had his own take on the way you identify and solve problems with your own personal experience. And one of the core concepts of Jungian psychology is called the shadow. And the shadow as a concept is essentially your behavior that you can no longer see. It's the stuff that's outside of your visual field of view, for lack of a better way to say it. The behaviors that you execute, maybe even on autopilot, or the stuff that's moving sort of below the waterline, if you will, that has not broken the surface and become something that you can adjust or trim or work with. In Masonic terms, this is the rough parts of the stone. They're the pieces of you that have led to a certain set of behaviors or a way of being in the world that isn't serving the overall design. It's not helping you build a better version of yourself. It's the kind of leftover stuff that isn't working for you. And so when we start sitting down to do shadow work, the first thing we have to understand as we look at this is that our shadow is invisible to us for the most part. It doesn't have something you can grab onto until you learn kind of where it is. And this is an odd experience when you start to really pursue it, because it feels like you're having a disproportionate reaction to a situation. It feels like you're angry or upset or mad at someone, and sometimes that feeling doesn't match the situation. You're irrationally upset. You're irrationally moved to a certain set of behaviors. That is kind of a first order indicator that your shadow is there. You can take a mental or emotional inventory of the situations in your life where you overreacted. And in those situations, there's work to be done. There is an opportunity for you to cultivate consciousness in a way that allows you to assume that level of agency we talked a little bit about yesterday. So one way is to look for those sort of discontinuities or those challenges where your response is disproportionate. Another way is to start to look across the patterns in your life, the things that you perhaps wish were different. I wish I did this, or I wish I was in this situation, that you kind of push into the periphery. You take those wishes, but you never turn them into concrete steps in action. Those wishes are another source of understanding some of the parts of you that you've pushed out of view and kind of hidden behind this hoodwink where you refuse to acknowledge or see the causes of that behavior. We'll talk a little bit more as we go through the week about how we're going to address some of these things, moving through them and understand what to do and all that kind of stuff. But for now, it's probably the most useful thing you can do is start to look for indicators of the shadow. And one of the third ways you can do that is to look for the patterns. What is it that you do that keeps showing up as a recurring theme? Every time this happens, I do that. Every time I feel this way, I find myself doing this thing. Those kinds of connections are really about helping you identify that place where your behavior has moved from a visible and obvious cause and effect to a subliminal cause and effect, to that shadow. Pursuing your shadow is the beginning of great Masonic work. If you can continue to find it, and let me be quite clear, your shadow will always exist, just like in real life. You may refine and improve your capacities over time. Our mission here is to essentially reduce its impact on your ability to respond, to give you more agency and more capacity to develop solutions in your everyday life.
The views represented in this podcast are those of the speaker alone and are not representative of any grand or subordinate lodge.
Hi, Brian here. I wanted to thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any suggestions or guidance for further episodes you'd like to see or hear, whatever the case may be, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at amasonswork.com, and we will try and incorporate your suggestions into a future recording. Thanks.
Freemasonry teaches us that the true work is within, a lifelong journey of reflection, discipline, and discovery. At A Mason's Work, we help Masons bring out their best selves through meaningful self-inquiry and symbolic practice. From personal reflection to lodge engagement, we offer tools that turn symbols into action. Visit us at amasonswork.com. The work is within. The time is now.